I've been vlogging on YouTube for about 3.5 years. Started vlogging when we decided to move overseas. We made the decision right as we were announcing that we were moving. We started vlogging from our fundraising, and then we moved overseas, lived there in Norway for 2.5 years. And we moved back to the US to work as missionaries here in Kansas City in February of this year. And I haven't posted every week, but almost every week of those 3.5 years, I've posted a video. This year I've done a little bit less with some transition, maybe every 2 weeks, but yeah, it's been quite a journey, and I'm happy to be with you guys here today to share about that journey. And Leo was able to send me some questions to talk through, and the first question was, why did I choose to start a vlog? That's a really good question. Many of you watch vlogs. I did before I started vlogging, and you might be considering starting a vlog yourself. And yeah, when I started vlogging, I had a couple different reasons that I wanted to vlog, that I was thinking that this would be something that would be worth my time, right? So before I started vlogging, I was actually working as a full-time videographer, photographer for a marketing department at a university. So I had developed skills in the area of video, and I'd started to realize this platform, YouTube, was becoming more than just a place to archive old videos, that there was actually starting to be content created there in really a unique way. And one of the people that really influenced me to start vlogging was a guy named Casey Neistat. If you're into YouTube, into vlogging, you've definitely heard of him, I'm sure. He is someone who decided, I think maybe in 2013 or 14, to start a daily vlog where he would video every day about his life, and he would share the exciting things that were happening and the boring things that were happening. He would just share every day, and he would edit that night and post the next day and then start filming again. And he did this for 2 or 3 years, and about a year or a year and a half into his journey, I started watching his vlog, and I was hooked. I started watching it every day, and I just began to reflect on what he was doing and realized that he was reaching millions of people with his worldview, with his perspective on daily life, his perspective on family and on work. And he was influencing a lot of people by entertaining them, but also by sharing with them his perspective on life. And I, as a Christian and as someone that wanted to be used by God in missions, I realized, wow, this is a powerful opportunity that lies before all of us now. 20 years ago, if you wanted to share a message with the world or influence the world, you had to convince someone that you had a message worth sharing, who owned a TV channel. You had to convince an executive, and then they had to spend a lot of money to get that message out. And if the message wasn't successful, then they would have the control to say, we don't want to share your message anymore, and you wouldn't have any option to continue sharing your message. And the world we live in today is very different. We have an opportunity now to share our message, our story, to influence without the external influence of the world around us. We don't have to convince an executive or someone with experience or with equipment or with an audience that they should share our message. We can just share our message without any permission. We don't have to have anyone tell us that we can do it. So I realized that the world was changing and that we had a new opportunity before us. And I thought, I want to learn how to utilize this ability, this opportunity. And so I realized I wasn't going to be able to immediately start creating a vlog like Casey Neistat every day. I wasn't going to have the time to film every day or edit every day. And I wasn't going to have the skill and the technical ability to all of a sudden create a massive audience. So I thought about, you know, is this something that's worth my time? Is this something that's worth my effort? And I think for many people, they see vlogging and they realize, wow, I could have a huge audience. Maybe I could even make money doing this. And the possibility of success, the possibility of an audience or of money is persuasive in convincing them to start creating content online. For me, it wasn't about a large audience or money in and of itself. I was thinking, I want to learn how to do this. I want to understand what this space is and how it works, and I want to learn by doing it. And so my goals when I started the vlog, I think my first goal was to vlog. I wanted to produce, I wanted to create content. And I thought that if I had that goal, that no one could stop me. No matter how many views I got, no matter how many subscribers I got, I could keep making videos. And I chose to really enjoy the process of creating videos and enjoy the process of editing videos and creating a new video each week. That to me was exciting, the opportunity to create and to share. And obviously, yeah, it's more than just about making the videos for myself. I wanted to share them with the world, and I wanted to learn how to grow an audience and how to reach people and influence people. So the content wasn't just for me, but I think starting off, I realized that's that it was at least primarily for me or for my growth. So when I saw YouTube, I saw a huge opportunity, and I think we as Christians oftentimes don't realize the opportunity that is available for us today. And I talked a minute ago about executives stopping certain messages from going forward. Not only do you need permission from an executive to put your show, for example, on TV, but then the executive also gets to decide what the content of that show is. They get to decide whether they like your message and whether they want you to go a different direction with their message, or how they're going to utilize your message to make money. And we have an opportunity with YouTube to create content that isn't influenced by someone that has money or someone that has the audience. And I've realized that this was an incredible opportunity. Again, one that has not existed for very long. A couple of reasons that I believe YouTube is really significant. We are seeing billions of views on YouTube every day. We're seeing billions of views. I think the last number I saw was 6 billion views on YouTube every day. Depending on where you go, you might find different numbers. But in 2017, YouTube passed television as the largest place where people, the place where people went more than television. YouTube was consumed more hours by more people than television in America. And I believe, I don't know the numbers on the world, but you're seeing YouTube replacing television as the primary way that people are educated and entertained. And I saw this as a really huge opportunity, but Casey Neistat reaches a huge audience of millions of people. And you might think that you need to reach 1 million people to have success or to have influence. But the reality of YouTube is that you don't have to be successful in huge numbers to have incredible impact and incredible influence. Because of the niche culture on YouTube, you can actually reach a very specific audience, a very specific group of people with a very specific message. And even though you may be reaching less people than maybe some of the big names out there, you're still having an incredible influence on the people that matter to you, or the people that you are wanting to influence. So, you know, if you put a television show up, that television show is going to reach every home in America, and it's going to reach a huge number of people. And you have to have a message that makes sense for a large number of people. It cannot be a specific message. It has to be a broad message. And this dilutes the ability to influence with specific messaging around specific audiences. And so I think one of the most powerful things about YouTube is that you don't have to reach a huge audience with a general message. You can reach a small audience with a specific message. And realizing this power and this potential allows you to see that you can influence the very people that you want to influence with the very message you want to influence them with. You don't have to craft a message that has a broad appeal. So that was very intriguing to me, and I think it's very I think it's a huge opportunity that that any human on the earth has right now. But I think especially as Christians who hold truth and who hold a worldview that brings freedom in life, we have a mandate to share that message and a mandate to influence those around us with the gospel. And we have this platform now that will allow us to do that in a very unique way. So that's the main reason that I started vlogging, was to learn about this platform and to begin to explore what does it look like for a Christian to utilize YouTube. What does it look like for a Christian to utilize the tools available through YouTube to influence the world? And I didn't know. I hadn't seen many Christians doing it, and that was one of the exciting things to me, was that we're looking at a largely untapped opportunity on YouTube for Christians. Now, 3.5 years later, there are more Christians on YouTube now, but they're still vastly underrepresented on YouTube. There are many, many more non-Christians sharing their messages on YouTube and succeeding on YouTube than there are Christians. And in the category of Christian vloggers, the number is even less. And if you are able to understand this platform and utilize it the way that it's made to be utilized, then you have the potential to reach a market that isn't being reached, it isn't being hit nearly to the degree that it could be. And I think for many Christians and many pastors, they don't understand YouTube, and many of them consume YouTube. Maybe some don't, but I think many Christians today are aware of YouTube and maybe consume content on YouTube, but they don't realize what YouTube is and what opportunities that it has for people. And I think that if we are able to get past this view of YouTube as being a place that you put a sermon as a Christian, where you just upload a whole sermon and it's basically kind of like an archive. That's what YouTube was used for 10 years ago. If we can get past that view of YouTube being a place where you just drop content that you created for another purpose, but instead start to create content for YouTube itself, we have the potential to reach audiences in a completely different way than we have in the past. Many Christians look at content creation the way that they look at preaching sermons on a Sunday morning, where people come into the church and they sit there and they are there because they feel religiously convicted to be in church. It's a good thing to go to church. So you don't come and say, if I don't like this sermon, I'm going to leave in the first 2 minutes. You're there and you stay the whole time, whether the sermon's good or not. Now, maybe you might go to a different church if you don't like the sermon, but generally speaking, pastors are not trying to create content that engages people's felt needs. They're trying to create content for a community of believers, and they shouldn't create content for YouTube in a local church setting, but recognizing that YouTube is way more than just a place to post a 40-minute sermon, that there's so much opportunity. And I think one of the main areas that we see that opportunity is in the area of vlogging. So that's a little bit of the reason why I started documenting on YouTube. There were other reasons. We were starting as missionaries, and we wanted to share our journey with our church and our community, our supporters, our family. We wanted to give them an opportunity to see into our world. That wasn't the primary purpose, and I was very clear about that. I did not create content for our supporters primarily. That was not my original intention, but I knew that that would benefit them and they would be able to see. And then finally, I wanted to document my story and my journey for my kids and for my family, an opportunity to document an adventure that we were going on in obedience to God. And I think vlogging and YouTube is primarily about storytelling. And the question is, are you living a story worth telling people about? And I don't think you have to move overseas and be a missionary to live the kind of story that's worth telling people about. But we as Christians are meant to tell a story, or to live a story worth telling people about. The story we have of following Jesus is an adventure, and it takes us on twists and turns like any good movie. And if our lives seem too boring, then maybe we're not willing enough to let God into our world and obey God in radical ways. Because if you start following God and following him where he leads you, then you're going to end up on some adventures, and you're going to end up taking risks and overcoming obstacles, which is what stories are all about. So that's why I started shooting a vlog.
Yes, thanks for so amazing sharing and thoughts. I really want to add a question here before we move on to the next bullet point. So, for at least for like a Mandarin speaking group in US, Chinese churches are the traditional Chinese church. We, sometimes we hesitate to go onto the YouTube because we see that platform as a, to be exaggerating, as an evil place. We see a lot of bad content, not the good content, for our kids, for ourselves, for adults, for church goers, believers. So, I mean, maybe that's the main reason behind, people like, we don't want to go to that place because we see that it's a blessing and a curse both ways, but more of that, we see that as a curse, not a blessing. So what's your thought about, going to that place? What kind of equipment, what kind of preparation we need to have to be ready to go to that place for, generating our content and even recommending our people, our friends, our family to go there, to go onto YouTube to watch?
Yeah, it's a great question. If you look at art in history, you would find that huge influence into art for many thousands of years has been Christian message. We created some of the most amazing art pieces, music and paintings and buildings and all of these things. One of the leading group that was creating this art was Christians. And it really is in the recent last 300 to 400 years with the rise of modernism and postmodernism, humanism, that we've started to see the world take some of that art form and begin to create art with evil intent. And today, I would say, largely we see the world leading the way in art and expression, with music, with video, with painting, photography, whatever it is that you want to say. We see the world kind of leading the way, and Christians oftentimes struggling behind. We do see Christian art that is very good, but we also see a lot of Christian art that is okay or bad. And we see a challenging question as an artist is, am I allowed to appreciate the beauty that I see in the art of the world? Or am I only to focus on the art that is produced by Christians? And this is a challenging question, but I think the way I would approach it would be asking the question, are we meant to create content? Are we meant to create art, or are we meant to leave it alone? There's a different question of, are we meant to consume, and what are we meant to consume? But that's not the question of, are we meant to create? And I believe we as Christians are called to co-labor with Christ and to do good works to bring glory to God. And so I think there is a very valid question around consuming content, or what content we should engage as Christians, what music we should listen to, what movies we should watch. We need to be careful what we're bringing into us. But that doesn't mean that we aren't called to create, that we aren't called to share. And I think you could look at that question as, there's many powerful speeches in history that are evil. and therefore maybe we shouldn't give any good speeches. I think we need to create content. I don't think we need to create content with a burden. I think we have a joy as sons and daughters of God to create content in response to his kindness and his goodness in our lives. And when we begin to express worship towards God and express in honesty our experience with God on YouTube, then we're creating more content for people to enjoy. And I would say that the presence of evil on YouTube is the greatest reason that we need to be creating good content. And yeah, does that answer the question? I think we're in agreement on that, but it's a good question.
Yeah, thanks for your great answer. I really appreciate that answer. Definitely, 100% I agree with you. So I guess the short or the more, I don't know, the easiest way for me as a content creation, content producer is to just create as much content that I can and upload it to YouTube and then shut it. Don't let my children watch it. Just let other people on YouTube to watch it, other audience. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, that was an awesome answer to me. I really like that.
Yeah, and I'm really glad there's more Christian content on YouTube now than ever, and many Christians haven't gone looking for it. And I think what you look for on YouTube is what YouTube will show you, and you discover content based on what you search for and what your interests are. So if you're not seeing Christian content, maybe search more for it and maybe look more for it, and you realize that that's the point of YouTube being niche focused, is you can find whatever you want on there and you can block whatever you want. And so I would say that's the way Christians should approach it. So would it be helpful now to go to the second question?
Sure.
So the second question that Leo gave me was, how is a vlog shooting and editing workflow like for me? And as I said earlier, my goal when I first started creating videos was just to keep creating, keep posting, keep filming, keep editing, keep uploading. And I think it's really important to recognize that it's a journey. Shooting and editing and uploading to YouTube is a journey, and that you're not going to start at the finish. You're not going to start creating the content that looks like what has inspired you. You're going to start creating content that maybe isn't inspiring at all, maybe isn't good at all. And if you go back and watch my first vlog, it's pretty bad. I didn't know how to speak clearly. I didn't have a very good message. My technical skill and ability lacked. Yeah, you should go watch it because it's very different than what I produce today. And I knew when I started that I would not be able to create content like I create today, that I would have to start with something less quality. And I think that's important to recognize. So early on, I had the short-term goal of shooting and editing a video every week. Within a couple of videos I decided to start shooting every Saturday, and I would shoot all day long on Saturday. And then in the evening I would edit. And then before I went to bed, I would post the video. And creating that kind of restriction for myself caused me to approach shooting and editing with the constraint of time. So I couldn't just shoot whenever I wanted. I didn't have to make decisions about when and where I was shooting. I just shot whatever I was doing every Saturday, and I didn't have to make a decision about when I was going to edit. I was going to edit that night. And so it's really helpful to start off with some constraints around your shooting and your editing, which will enable you to focus on shooting and editing. You don't have to make decisions about when and where. For me, it was freedom. On Saturday when I woke up, I had my camera all charged up and I started shooting, and I knew what I was doing every Saturday night. And what I realized after 2 or 3 or 4 vlogs editing every single Saturday night was that if I edited faster, then I could go to sleep faster. And this created an incentive for me to get better at editing. And after a little while, the excitement of editing a vlog starts to wane a little bit, and it's no longer as much fun, and it starts to become normal. Like cooking breakfast every morning, you stop thinking every morning about how do I make breakfast really cool, and you think about how can I make breakfast really quick? How can I make breakfast that I like? And it's that repetition that allows you to begin to think about your process and begin to learn how to do a better job editing. And I remember I used to pull video clips in and then cut them, and then pull and cut and pull and cut. And I realized I was taking a lot of time. I was taking 2 or 3 seconds for every video, trying to pull a video over and drop it in, pull it over, drop it in. And then if I could save that 2 or 3 seconds, that over the course of one vlog edit, I might save 5 or 10 minutes. And so I did a YouTube search on editing techniques, and I learned 3-point editing, where I could edit without using a mouse, and I could use 2 keystrokes to pick my in and out points on my source, and then 1 keystroke to enter that into my timeline. My point is that I learned how to do something faster and better, something that was technically better as an editor to do, but I was lazy, and I was unwilling to learn that to save 5 minutes if I was editing a random video. But if I was editing the same video every week, I started to realize if I get faster or better at this, then I can save a lot of time. So I could try to teach you guys how to edit a video. And if you have a question, feel free to ask. But really, honestly, the way to learn how to edit a video is by editing a video, and then editing another one, and then editing another one, and then editing another one. And oftentimes the work, the challenge of learning how to edit is, what am I supposed to edit? And what, all the decisions around what should I shoot and what should I edit? And I decided to make one decision that I would use that decision to shoot and edit every Saturday to teach me how to become a faster and better editor. And I have become a much faster and much better editor. When I first started shooting and editing, it would take me 3 to 5 hours to edit a 10-minute YouTube video. I can now do the same job in 30 minutes to an hour and a half. And primarily the way that I saved that time was by learning better processes that allowed me to move faster. So editing is actually one of the biggest keys here, but another big key is shooting. And there's actually a potential to save more time in editing by shooting a specific way than there is in editing a specific way. The best way to edit your video is to edit it as you shoot. Now, what I don't mean taking every video as you film it and bring it into your computer. What I mean is you can take the mind of an editor who's looking at each individual shot and thinking, is this a good shot? And as an editor, you have to make a lot of decisions. And so you make a decision, do I like this one or do I like that one? Do I like this part or like that part? Do I like what I said here or like what I said there? And you have to make a decision over and over and over again. And probably 10 or 15 vlogs in, I realized that I could make that decision as a shooter as well as an editor. And so I began to talk to myself like an editor as I was shooting. So I would pull my camera out and I would say, not like literally stop and think this, but I started to train myself that as I was shooting, I was thinking, am I going to use this? Am I going to use this video? Because if I'm not going to use this video, then I might as well not even shoot it. And then I don't have to waste the time watching it and deciding I don't want to use it later. So by learning to be a better shooter, shooting less and knowing what I needed and getting just that, it enabled me to bring the footage in and say, it's actually pretty close to what I want it to be in the end. So there's actually a skill there that you can learn to think. Now, if you're producing content for a client who's paying you $10,000 to create a video, you're going to shoot a lot of content because you want to make sure that you get what you need for that video. But if you're creating content on YouTube and you know the goal is to learn, not to make the best video you ever made, then you can go into that scenario with more freedom on yourself and say, I'm going to make decisions more freely, knowing that I'm not going to lose $10,000 if this video isn't perfect. And that freedom enabled me to try things out. And I've had some vlogs, even a year into vlogging, that are just not very good. And I have vlogs today that aren't very good. And I sort of took the pressure off myself to make the best video I could ever make, and instead just make a video. And that is hugely helpful in learning how to create content. I want to share a story. It's not my story. I listened to it or heard it from a YouTuber. I don't think it was his story either. He was sharing it, but it's a good story. It's a story of a pottery class. And in this pottery class, the teacher started at the beginning of the year by separating the pottery class into two groups. And to one group, she said, I want you to make the very best pot that you could possibly make. I want you to make it as flawlessly and perfectly with all the right colors. I want you to spend as much time as you can to figure out how to make this pot amazing. And to the second group, she said, I want you to make as many pots as you can make. If you can make 5 pots a day, just make as many pots as you can make. And over the course of the semester, she watched her students learn how to make pots and experiment and try different techniques. But at the end of the semester, she said to each group, I want you to bring your best pot to me, and let's see which pot is better. And not to her surprise, she found that the group that had the goal of making more pots, they actually produced the better pot at the end of the year. And the reason why they had produced a better pot was because they had made more pots. And in the process of making those pots, they had learned better techniques and they had learned better skills and they were more proficient in pot making. And I think oftentimes we think that we need to figure out how to make the perfect pot, and it stops us from making pots. And so we don't end up learning the techniques that we need to learn because we're too worried about trying to make it perfect or make it what we want it to be in the end. But really the best way to do it is just to say, I'm going to make as many as I can. And that's what I have found true in my journey in YouTube, is that the way to become a better YouTuber, a better vlogger, is to create more and create consistently. So when I first started shooting, this is kind of what it looked like, what my workflow looked like. I woke up on a Saturday morning, I turned my camera on and I said, good morning. This is what we're doing today. And I would shoot through the day. Sometimes I wouldn't even know what we were doing that day. And I would just shoot and shoot and shoot. And I would get to the end of the day and I would say, okay, now it's time to edit. I'm going to take my camera, drag all the footage off of it, bring it into my editor. As I was dragging it in, I would create a folder and say, vlog number 7, vlog number 10, vlog number 15. And I would throw all the footage in and I would start to edit it through, and I would go through the content in one pass, and I would say, I'm going to cut out all of the footage that I don't want to use, and keep the usable footage. I wouldn't make as many decisions about, do I want this one or not that one? I would just say this part's shaky or this part's not usable. So I would just delete it out. And I would get to a place where I had all the usable footage in a timeline. And then I would go through and I'd say, all right, what do I delete? What do I not like? And I would start to delete the pieces I didn't like. And then I would be left with a smaller timeline, less content. And I would say, okay, now I've got the pieces I like. What's the message? What am I trying to say? Where do I start and where do I end? And what's the message of this video? And I would start to look for the pieces that were in the message, and I would start to cut around them. And then I would bring music in and I would export it. And right before I exported it, I would take a still in the video somewhere. I would find a spot in the video that's like, that looks pretty interesting. I would take a screenshot, and that would be the beginning of my thumbnail. And so I'd hit export, and I would take that screenshot and I would bring it into Photoshop, and I would begin to create a thumbnail using that screenshot. Then I would have the file exported, and I would upload it to YouTube, and I would bring in the thumbnail or the screenshot. Oftentimes I didn't have any text over it. It was just a picture. And I would think, all right, what's a good title for this video? How would I title this content? And that's that's a very simple way to approach video creating. And that's the way I did it for the first 1.5 to 2 years. But it's actually a really bad way to create content. But that was my workflow when I started. I would shoot, I would edit, and then I would think about my title and my thumbnail, and I would think about what the message was. And again, my goal was to shoot and edit. So I wasn't worried at first about making a video that had a really great title or thumbnail. I was just interested in making a video. So it worked out for my goal. But I realized at some point that my title and thumbnail were the most important part about how I would get someone to click my video. I wouldn't get a view for my video if my title and my thumbnail weren't very interesting. So I thought, okay, I need to spend more time creating a better title and thumbnail for my video. And the way I did that was I started to think about what in this video makes the video more interesting. What in this video makes the video intriguing, or in what way could I create text that would get someone to click that's accurate to the video. And I realized that I would find a title or a thumbnail in the video that would get people to click, but that title and thumbnail were decided right as I was uploading the video, and I realized that the video didn't talk a whole lot about that title and thumbnail, that was really the most interesting thing in the video, but it was only one small part of the video. And so I could get people to click on it, and I started to have more people click, but then I realized that people weren't sticking around for the whole video because they were looking for that title. They were looking for that content that was in the title and the thumbnail, and they didn't find it, so they left the video. And I realized actually earlier this year, I realized last year that I could, if I decided the title and thumbnail before I started shooting the video, that I could decide what is the most interesting thing about this video, and then I could talk about it for a large percentage of the video. And the people that wanted to click that title and thumbnail would get what they were looking for. They would click it and they would say, oh, what I thought this video was, it actually is. And that at first seems like a small thing, but what I began to realize was that as an editor and as a shooter, I was oftentimes asking the question, what is worth shooting and what is worth editing? And if I make that decision about what the title and the thumbnail, the message of the video is afterwards, I actually have more work as an editor to try and figure out the story as I'm editing. But if I start the video knowing what my message is, knowing where I want to take people on that video, it actually enables me to shoot and edit much, much faster, because I know what is valuable to that message and what is not. I know what I need to include and what I don't. When I'm shooting without a purpose, when I'm shooting without clarity as to what the title and thumbnail are going to be, then I don't know what belongs in and what doesn't. And so I shoot more and I create more than I need to. But when I know what my message is and I know where I'm wanting to go with a video, then I'm able to shoot and edit very, very carefully. And as you do that week after week, you can actually get pretty good at shooting your content that much faster and editing your content that much faster. And the end result is that you have a video that has value to your audience, not just promised in the title and thumbnail, but also delivered in the video itself. And this actually is putting the work of deciding the title and thumbnail, the message of the video, putting it before you turn the camera on instead of after you turn it off, instead of after you export. And you have to decide a title and thumbnail either way. So for me, when I began to move that part of the process to the beginning, I began to find both my videos easier to shoot and my content better for my audience and reaching a larger audience. When I started to do that, I realized that I was able to get a better message and a better click-through rate or better engagement in my video. But I began to realize that if I wanted to grow an audience, that my videos needed to have a similar message, that they needed to be of value to the same people over and over again. I actually started to make videos that were very successful about what it was like to live as an American in Norway. And I found an audience that really liked these videos. It was an audience called Norwegians. Norwegians like to watch videos about Americans experiencing their culture. The problem is that Norwegians aren't very interested in videos about being a missionary. And so I had to make a decision. Do I want to grow my channel faster and get more views by making content about Norwegian culture from an American perspective? Or do I want to grow a different audience slower, where I'm sharing content about missions and not about Norway, about my experience as an American in Norway? And that was a question that I really had to wrestle with, because every time I made a video about my experience in Norway, I got a lot of views. And every time I made a video about my experience as a missionary, I didn't get so many. And I had to make that choice about the title and thumbnail time and time again. Am I going to title this video how my experience has been as an American in Norway, or what my first year as a missionary was like? And I could make the same video and I could title it one way or the other, but I had to begin to realize that I needed to identify what audience I wanted to reach and what message I wanted to have, because just getting views wasn't my goal. It was actually to grow a specific audience. And earlier this year, I decided to take a course on how to create an audience and a value proposition. And I began to realize that I didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted my message to be and who I was trying to reach. And some of you might be surprised to hear this, because you can see my channel now and you can see, oh, wow, there's a very clear purpose and a very clear audience. You can see it in that 2-minute video. But it wasn't until this year that I realized that I needed to really decide that and make that clear. And actually making that video was a part of my process of deciding what and communicating who am I trying to reach and what am I trying to do for them. And so that was hugely important in my process. And now before I turn my camera on, I have a list of titles and thumbnails, and I think, which one of these titles and thumbnails do I want to talk about this week? And all my titles and thumbnails are geared towards my audience of potential missionaries. So that's a little bit about my shooting and editing workflow. Do you want to take a break again now to ask some questions about that?
Yeah, sure. I want to have a quick question before we move to the last point. So you mentioned you start off with like shooting randomly, shooting spontaneously every day when you wake up and until the end of the day, and you later on edit them, with the specific goal and organizing all this content. And then it sounds to me like you're more transitioning to a more planned or pre-scripted way, right? So you have your thoughts already as an editor, as a YouTuber. Then you go out and shoot during the day. What do you think the pros and cons of doing either way? Like, say for example, would a predetermined thought destroy the organicity or the authenticity of your video, as opposed to shoot it naturally, just let it go, see how God leads you? Especially we're shooting the spiritual content, not the film production for commercials.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's both. I think that we need to both plan and be organic or natural. I think deciding your goals and knowing who your audience is and what value you're offering, you need to decide that for your overall channel, because it will help you make decisions about what you should be talking about. If my channel is about missionaries, then I don't need to spend a whole lot of time talking about the Norwegian culture. I need to spend more time talking about my life as a missionary. And so I think that's maybe the most important thing, is to know what the goal of your overall channel is, because people will watch one video and they'll find it interesting, maybe or maybe not. But if you want people to start watching every video you produce, you need to produce content that consistently delivers value to the same group. So I think you could shoot about your life in the same vein, the same messaging, and deliver content that's very authentic and very real to your life, but that you kind of understand, I'm not talking to my family, I'm not talking to my church, I'm not talking to this group of people, I'm talking to this group of people. And when you understand what that is and what that group of people is interested in, then you're able to deliver a message that is valuable not just to you, but to them. So if I went on vacation to Mexico and I was on the beach and I thought, oh man, this would be a really cool video, I can make a really cool video about traveling to Mexico and sitting on the beach and swimming and all the different fun things I did on my vacation to Mexico. And very few people are going to find that video interesting to them. The group that's going to find it interesting is people that that know me and are interested in my experience in Mexico because they know me. But if I try and show that to a random stranger and say, hey, spend 5 minutes of your time watching this video, there's not going to be many reasons why they want to watch a video about my vacation to Mexico because they don't know me at all. So you really have to ask yourself the question, what's the value in this video? If the value in this video is someone else is getting to watch my vacation, then it's a very small group of people that are interested. But if the value in the video is that they get to get a perspective on why this airline's better than that airline, or why this beach is better than that beach, or why going to Mexico is the best option for your vacation, all of a sudden that video is valuable to somebody. But is it valuable to the person that I want it to be valuable to? So those are the questions you have to ask yourself. And if you understand that, then you're able to say, this title and thumbnail and this direction for this video is more of a general outline or thought process to go down. It's not really restricting me or making me talk about it in a specific way. And I think there are times at which I make a video that's very focused on creating something that's valuable to someone that doesn't know me. And so that video is made with like, I want to know my audience and know what they want, and I'm going to create something for them. And that video is made to grow my channel and grow my audience. I might make another video that is more about something I just went through, something that was challenging or difficult. And when I make that video, I'm very honest about where I'm at, and I don't try and create a video that that meets my audience in a very specific scripted way. But I know that it's the content is generally towards my audience. And so if I create the content with all that in mind, then that organic video helps my audience get to know me better. Whereas the video that's made answering a question that's very real to them helps me grow my audience. So it's understanding that you're trying to do all those things, be very sharp on delivering value, but also very relational and letting people know you, so that once they're there and they've grown, they're not just getting generic content or content that's interesting to them in a bland way, but they're actually getting to know me and connect with me in that content. So it's some of both. And one thing that I've heard from other videographers that I really like as a perspective on this is prioritizing moments over shots. And specifically what that means is, if I'm creating a video with a very clear purpose, I might have a list of shots I want to get. And I might go through and shoot a shot of, like you saw that in that video, a shot of me moving my boxes, out of the U-Haul trailer. That's a very clear shot. And I set my camera up, thought I want a shot of me moving. And this is what's going to visualize that. But you can also find a different kind of shot, and that is capturing a moment. And what that means is, you're capturing something as it happens. It's not scripted. It's not something that you set up. It's just you turn the camera on and something interesting happens. Your kid flips the pancake and it lands on the counter instead of the griddle. And all of a sudden you've got a big mess. And that wasn't the plan, but you end up with a moment that you can create a memory. And you can have those moments with a random stranger, with a guest, with your spouse. They're moments that you couldn't recreate if you wanted to. They're real moments. And I think we want, as vloggers, to catch more of those real moments than we want to create shots. So I think you're trying to do all those things simultaneously. And I think that's one of the reasons why shooting every week is helpful, because you go from over analyzing every time you turn the camera on to getting very used to just turning the camera on and hitting record, and you're not as focused on all that, but you start to realize that you're thinking about all of it in the background. So it's all those things, but I erred on the side of shooting without a purpose and without a message and without clarity of who my audience was. And so I only got half of it. I got the organic real life, but I didn't get a big audience that way. And I didn't find new people. I found mostly the people that were watching were the people that knew me. And when I realized I want a bigger audience than that, I had to start thinking about what's important to that bigger audience.
Oh, great answer. Great answer. You always answer more than what I wanted to hear. So that was beautiful. And yeah, it was really, really helpful. I was actually looking to enroll an online class, which is on sale. You know, it still costs money. I mean, what you said is just to cover pretty much all of them. So yeah, you'll be a great coach to us. And I really appreciate it. So yeah, I think we are moving to the last point, which was already covered, you know, pretty much throughout your talk. So yeah, please just summarize with the last point, and then we'll open up to the audience to ask questions randomly.
Yeah, I'm reading my notes here. Yeah, I think
just some tips for the dummies. Yeah. So I believe most of us are like beginners or, you know, starters in the early time. Yeah.
So I don't shoot my vlog on a phone. I have a camera that I shoot on, and I use a GH5, and I have a nice microphone on top of that. And I don't have it with me right now, so I can't show it to you. But I wanted to say that for those of you who are considering creating content, that you can capture almost maybe even like 98% of the quality that you would get with my $2,000 camera. You can capture now with a newer phone, one that was bought in the last 2 or 3 years, even a phone from 5 years ago, if it has enough storage on it. You can shoot some really amazing videos. And I think for a lot of people, they're thinking about their technology or their equipment and what equipment do I need to capture a good video. I think you need a phone, and you don't need to worry about your equipment. In some ways, you might decide later on that you do need equipment, but I would focus first not on what's the equipment that I need to learn how to use, but what's my message and who's my audience and what I want to say. And I think you can say that just as easily with a phone. Even if the quality is bad, you can still communicate your message. The piece of equipment that you really need to consider is actually your audio or your microphone. And that is the piece of equipment that enables people to hear you. And so it doesn't matter how amazing your video is, how nice it is, if people can't hear you, then your video doesn't have any purpose unless it's a silent video. So I think the thing to consider with audio is that you can do that with your phone depending on your noise environment. So if I'm in a quiet room, then the microphone, and I'm holding the microphone, 2 feet or less away from me, then I'm going to be able to capture pretty good audio using the on-camera microphone. But if I'm in a noisy environment and I have my camera further than 2 feet away from me, then the chances of that audio coming back clear and being able to hear what I said is greatly impacted. So again, knowing the constraints that you have, the constraints of me shooting every Saturday made me a better videographer. So know that you have the constraints of, hey, I'm going to shoot on this phone and I have to shoot all the talking parts this kind of way, and experiment with it, play with it. Maybe you shoot a vlog and you realize you couldn't hear me at all. And the next time you say, how can I shoot in a way that you can hear me? But that to me is the starting point with shooting is your phone, and recognizing that you can tell a story there. And maybe you're not an editor. I would say a great starting point is to shoot on Instagram stories. You can edit your video one clip at a time and post it as you go. And you can learn how to shoot and edit a video without ever putting it on a computer and editing it. There's also, I don't have a whole lot of expertise in apps on phones, but I know there are a lot of apps on your phone that you can use to edit your video. I think another thing to consider is starting with shorter content. You don't need to make a 10-minute video. You could make a 20-second video or a 2-minute video. Think about how can I pack as much value in this content as I possibly can. And you don't actually have to even create a video. You could just share a post or a picture. I think what people misunderstand is that people aren't interested in some glorious delivery of a video. You can make a 10-minute video and people will watch very little of it. You can create a picture with a 1 line of text on it and have an incredible impact and influence people in a very significant way with no technical skill, but you're doing the same thing I'm doing with all that work in that 10-minute video. So if the 10-minute video is really where you're wanting to go, you know, and you've thought about it and you think that's really what I want and I know why, then cool, go for it. But I personally feel like 20-second videos, and you know, start with something you can do. Like, don't worry about creating something that is, again, that perfect pot at the end. Start by creating something, and start by sharing something. Ask God, what is it that I'm meant to speak on, and who is it that I'm trying to reach, and what am I trying to say to those people? So that would be I think for me, my thoughts on starting and on technology, you know, whether you need a camera. Yeah. The other thing I would say, I talk about 1,000 true fans on here. That's a message I heard from somebody else on the internet. There's this idea that, you know, many people are thinking, how do I reach 1 million people? But if you are creating content that's very valuable to a specific group, you might be reaching a smaller audience. But if you had 1,000 people that really, really loved what you created, you have a really powerful opportunity. If I had 100 people in a room with me and they cared about what I was saying, they trusted me and were ready to be influenced by me, I would have a huge impact. And I would be thinking, wow, I have 100 people that care what I have to say. That's amazing. And I think whether it's 100 or 1,000, the idea of saying, I'm not going to try and reach as many people as possible. I'm not going to try and get everyone to click my video, but I'm going to try and get this very specific person who's in this specific place. Maybe it's a single mom, or maybe it's a high school student who's the only Christian in their high school. If I can reach that person and gain their trust and make them a true fan of what I create, then I'm creating something that's really amazing. And actually, that's, even if you're trying to create money, if you sell one $100 product to 1,000 people, you just made $100,000. And so, you know, to try and convince tens of thousands of people to like what you're doing is really difficult. But to try and convince 100 people, change your perspective from I need to reach a massive audience to I need to reach a specific, clear, small audience.
Again, that's a wonderful explanation. So I really like it. You know, this is a good start. I guess after this session, we're all going to be very passionate about, you know, making our own videos published online immediately. So yeah, very great talk. And now it's the time to open up to the audience, and we encourage people to, you know, just throw out questions. I believe Phil will give you more than you ask. So,
I'll try to keep it short. I know I talk a lot.
No, that's a lot of value adding points. Yeah, really appreciate it. Okay. All right, you can either post your question in the chat or you can open up your Mac and talk. Yep.
Yeah, I have my chat open, so ask away. Could we do a collaboration? Seeing from Jay Chen. Jay, are you creating content somewhere? Is that what are you asking if we could create content together?
Yeah. Because thank you for coming today. Yeah, I was a YouTuber before. Yeah, but been well, because basically it's about 2 years ago. Because I last time I achieved to around 10,000, but later on I just closed up. The thing is like yeah, today the thing you mentioned is about the message. Yeah, if I go towards to the world view, yeah, you can get a lot of views of the. But if you go to the gospel way, like biblical way, then no one wants to watch that one. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, is another way you can. I just trying to think about again to restart again. Yeah, especially I have been experienced about how when you achieve that 10,000 the level, actually the YouTube will help you more, because I've been there. Yeah, I've been there, because and actually you can hire the equipment from the YouTube space.
Yeah.
Basically, you can have a more resources to help you to create more content. Yeah.
Yeah. So a great question in terms of collaboration is, collaboration is a great way to grow. Collaboration, for those of you who don't know, is when two different content creators, maybe in this case YouTubers, decide let's make a video together, and we'll both post that video to our own channels, and it will cause my audience to go to your video and your audience to come to my video. And I think one of the real questions to ask is who's in my audience and who's in your audience, and where do they overlap? Because if I have 10,000 viewers and you have 10,000 viewers, you might think we could both get 20,000 viewers by sharing, but the real question is your audience interested in my content, and is my audience interested in your content? And so if you're making videos about your life as a missionary, then a collaboration between our channels is going to be interesting to both of our channels. But if you're making videos about how to make the perfect hamburger at home, then there might be a small group of people that find both of our content interesting, but the chances of that are lower. So I think it's key. I like collaborating with people. A lot of times I bring people into my videos that aren't even YouTubers, and I would be happy to collaborate with anybody who's here in Kansas City, just to show up on cameras together is fun, and I like doing that. But I think the larger question is, do our goals overlap, or do our audiences overlap?
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, then that collaboration could be very valuable to both of us. If they don't, then maybe the collaboration can be fun, but it doesn't have as much value.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely open to a conversation with anybody who wants to collaborate. I'd love to chat about it and figure out how to do it together. So feel free to message me if you want to talk more about it.
My second question is like, because you have kids and also I have a kid. So how do you cope? How do you cope? Like if you shoot like weekend?
Yeah. So I found that I could bring the camera in at the right moments, and it would be fun to do with my family. I also was sensitive to put the camera away when it wasn't the right moment. And then I would edit the video after the kids went to bed. And for me, the vlog was not a ministry primarily or a job. It was for fun. I found shooting and editing to be fun for me, and I wanted to do it. So I created space for it. Because it's important for all of us to have things that we get to do that are fun and that we're passionate about. And so if making a video for you is about ministry, then put it into a workspace that's for ministry. If you're trying to accomplish something other than having fun on the weekend with your family, it would probably be hard to sustain. And then you mentioned something about when people start talking about the gospel or Christianity, that people click away. They're more interested in non-Christian stuff. I think the question for me is why. If we look at what the world is offering, they're telling us that you can have meaning or purpose, you can have entertainment or fun, and here's the ways you do it. But the question is, who created meaning and purpose and fun? And if we recognize that God created those things, and that He alone has those things, and that what the world is offering won't satisfy those things, then the question is, why are we so boring? And why, is the way we talk about the gospel disinteresting to people? For me, it's sharing my real life, my struggles, my challenges. I think there's a lot of non-Christians that watch my channel where I'm talking about my relationship with God because I'm being authentic and real. If I were to switch around and start preaching to my audience and say, here's why you should do this, or here's why you should do that, I think my audience would click away, many of them. But if I share about my journey, I think they listen with interest, and I have the potential to influence them as they reflect on my story.
Great question and great answers. Phil, you just saved a heroic kingdom YouTuber. So as Jay said, he used to have like 10,000 plus subscribers, and he's based in UK, London, UK. So yeah, I'm so glad to see he's gonna come back. He's sort of stepping away from the platform, creating more influential content for the kingdom of God. Thank you so much. And yeah, please raise more questions. It's more exciting to see the real conversation, between the people, audience, and the speaker. So, great question.
There's a question, I think maybe it's in Chinese, so I can't read it.
Yeah, if you can post it in the chat.
Oh, it was just a brother who encouraging folks to ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't read it, so.
Hi, Philip.
Hi.
Hi, Philip. Thank you very much for sharing your story. I have a question. So you talk about you do a vlog and you have lots of audience. I'm just wondering how much time you spend to interact with your audience, like checking their comments and reply to their comments and reply to their questions or so on and so forth. So I'm just thinking, you put the vlog and a lot of people might get touched, right? And they might have a lot of questions about the faith, and they want to have some question. And do you spend lots of time to follow up and also answer the question? And do you think that's valuable to do so?
Yeah, I don't know how much time I spend answering comments. I do it kind of sporadically. Probably every week I probably spend 30 minutes answering comments. I find the comments are the main way that my audience is able to communicate with me. And so I find comments to be incredibly valuable. And if someone takes the time to share with me, then I always reply. Every single comment I reply to. That's kind of my rule, even on old videos. And I think if you're wanting to build an audience that just listens to you and you never hear back from them, then yeah, don't reply to comments. But if you want an interactive audience, then the more you comment with them, the more they feel like, oh, wow, when I comment to him, I get to hear back from him. And I even try to use comments as ideas for videos because I want my channel to not just be me rambling, but I want it to be a community of people with shared beliefs and shared experience. And so I find it incredibly important and incredibly valuable to respond to comments.
Oh, great, thank you. And so also I have another question. Because you've been doing a vlog for 3 years now, is that right?
Yes.
So at the beginning, when you start the journey, you're probably facing lots of difficulties, and also when you see the number of viewing is not increasing, how you overcome that, and how do you encourage yourself, keep doing it?
Yeah, so like I said earlier in my talk, thanks for the question. It's a great question, very real. Earlier in the talk, I talked about the fact that for me, my goals were to learn how to do YouTube and to have fun, to enjoy the process, to enjoy creating. And I think it's important that you have goals that you have control over. If your goal, for example, is to reach 100 views in the first 24 hours of your video being up, you don't have the control to reach that goal. So I think it's really good to have goals that you have total control over. So like it could be, I have a goal to post a video every week. No one can stop me from reaching that goal. And I think if you know that's what your goal is, then there's a satisfaction that comes from completing that goal. But if your goal is to reach 100 views, then it can become very easy to get disappointed when you don't reach it. I think overall, my goal with the channel was to reach a larger audience. And it's primarily not just to reach that audience, but to learn how to reach that audience, to actually discover how to do it. And for me, it was discovering that I needed to offer value to people, that people aren't interested in me, they're interested in themselves. And so if I don't create something that they find important to them and valuable to them, then they're not going to watch. But if they do find something that's important and valuable to them, then they're going to keep coming back for more. So it's important that I find somewhere on that journey of learning that I start to learn, how do I make videos that are both fun for me to make, but that are also valuable to someone. And I think that's where you start to see views happen. And so if I find myself not getting views on a video, then I ask myself the question, did I deliver value in that video? And oftentimes, when I get a less views on a video, it's because I didn't spend enough time thinking about what value I was going to deliver to my audience. But sometimes that question can get in the way. Sometimes you just need to have fun and make content that you want to make and not worry about the views, and realize that some videos are going to hit for no reason and other ones aren't. And my favorite videos that I've produced aren't the ones that have the most views. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you.
Thanks for your question.
Yeah, guys, I just checked Phil's videos in the past 3 years. I randomly picked some of them. I see he replied literally everybody. So if you want to give it a try, like just ask question, leave your comments there, see if he's gonna respond to you.
I totally will. Yeah.
He is a serious YouTuber, I can say. Yeah, and he's a serious missionary. So this is, I try to picture when you guys are talking, like this is the real testimony, right? This is a real testimony of the gospel, how gospel influenced our life, how gospel changed, transformed ourselves. And we just literally, most of the time we didn't realize this is the opportunity. This is a hidden gem in every single one of us, right? If we all can share the transformative, the power of the gospel, how much change the gospel has done to us individually or as a family, as a community, we can all share the similar, different but similar information, similar message to the broader audience online. That's boundless. It really is boundless. And while replying while talking to the visitors, it's literally like a discipleship, right? If you want to establish the connection, the relationship, personal touch with your audience, just take it seriously, right? Spend time leaving the comments, spend time replying them, and to talk to them, and even invite them personally. That's a great discipleship. We just have to change the mindset, like how we make disciples in the old way, right? This is the totally new, brand new opportunity to all of us.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of results, you can see the views and subscribers, which to me don't matter as much on my channel, but we've had dozens of people reach out to us who either are missionaries or who are wanting to become a missionary, who have shared how helpful our channel has been to them in helping them process their own story and helping them think through whether they want to be a missionary or, we've had countless stories from those people who are in our audience who have basically been the fruit that we're looking for. The goal is to have an audience that thinks more about God's call in their life and that they're going to walk in obedience to what God has for them in missions. And so for me, that's really the fruit that I'm after is a dozen people or 2 dozen people saying, wow, this really impacted me, or thank you so much, or keep going. It's those audience members that matter the most to me. And I don't need, thousands of views on a video to feel like the video is successful if I had a couple dozen people who are experiencing the impact that I intend for them to experience. So one more question here. How about the missionaries in the third world? Any suggestions for how to spread the good news through YouTube? That's a great question. I think there's a huge opportunity to reach YouTube in other languages. If you create, I have a friend who's from Vietnam and he's creating content in Vietnamese, and his channel has grown much, much faster than my channel. And so I think there are many language groups out there that have very little content on YouTube, but that those people are still watching content in English, but also in their own language. And so when you start to create content in another language, you have a huge opportunity there. So I would say, again, make it authentic, know the culture, but I think across the whole world right now, authenticity, sharing real is way more important than sharing something that's crafted or perfect. And so why do you follow Jesus? Why do you live for Jesus? Why is Jesus important to you? Is there a real reason? Is the reason just because culture or parents or church, or is there a real reason that you follow Jesus? And identify what that reason is and share it with boldness. Don't, like, it's authentic. That's who I am. This is the real reason. And I think there's strengths and weaknesses to the authenticity that our world values right now. There is a truth, and it's not just whatever you want it to be, but utilizing your story, you'll find that people will be more open to you than if you try to come to them with some sermon. If you come to them with your experience, they'll relate to not just the reasons why you believe in God, but the challenges that God has brought you through, the insecurity or the fear or the anxiety or the depression or maybe you haven't overcome those things. Share them anyway. Share where you are on a dark day, and don't try and make it positive. Just be authentic, but in the story over the course of your videos, bring it back to God and show how you're looking to God with hope. And you'll find, I think people will understand, oh, wow, when I face depression, I can do the same thing.
Thank you, Phil, again for all these great answers. Myself also have a question for you. Some of the point probably already been touched. It's about time management, right? Because a lot of us, and we also have other things going on in our life, whether it's church, work, and all these. Like you, especially at the beginning, before you get so quickly be able to spin up a video very fast, and I would say the first 3 months will be the hardest, and to create all this content, especially your skills is not there yet. You have to go through a lot of training, and that how do we conquer the fear of failure and be able to continuously to create to create the content, and how do you balance your life, your work, and with these new items that you added on your life, especially at the beginning?
So I think one of the best ways to save time is to spend the time, maybe take a whole weekend, or maybe take some time each week on one evening to try and figure out what it is that you're wanting to do. If you have a very clear goal, that's the best way to save time. So if you don't know what you're trying to reach, then you're going to spend a lot of time not reaching them. But if you know who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to do, that will help the most. So that time, even if it's several days and you're not creating videos initially, if you understand that really well, that will save you a lot of time and help you succeed even without spending a lot of time. For someone that's not a video editor, I actually would recommend that you consider doing live video. Live video is amazing because the time you spend to create a live video is the time of the live video. You're not spending time deciding when to film multiple times in the day and then bringing all that footage in and copying it and editing it and exporting it. You literally say go live, and then you end the video, and everything that happens in the middle is there, and as soon as you're done, the video's up forever, and you don't have to edit it. So that's a great way to create content easily without a lot of work and without a lot of experience. I think art is always improved by constraints, by having things that you don't have control over. For my constraints, it was shooting and editing on Saturday. For your constraints, you might say, I'm going to go live for 30 minutes every Saturday at 7 p.m. And you will find that that constraint can actually give you creativity and can actually help you. So maybe you can't find time to spend 3 hours editing a video and film throughout the day, and maybe you don't know how to do the video techniques. So if you go live for 30 minutes and you know who it is you're trying to reach and what is your message, you can create content that is valuable to someone and get better at that 30-minute slot and get sharper and improve your message and know your audience better. And if you do that every Saturday for a year, you will reach people and you will influence people and you will have impact. And all you had to spend was, I would say, not just the 30 minutes, I would also spend at least 30 minutes before you start thinking, what am I going to talk about? And what is this video going to be about? Maybe it's the 30 minutes before the video, or maybe it's earlier in the week. But if you spend an hour, 30 minutes preparing and 30 minutes sharing on Facebook Live or Instagram Live or YouTube Live, I think you'll end up with a very similar result to what I've found on my channel. The reality is I wanted to make videos that were edited and I wanted to shoot them on my camera, and that was what I wanted to have fun with. So that's what I did, but that is by no means the way that you need to grow an audience. You can do it without having any equipment at all.
Thank you very much.
Someone also commented here, exposure is dangerous for missionaries. I think in reference to the question about sharing the gospel in the third world. It's a very good point. There are some places where you have to be careful what content you're creating because of danger to yourself. I have not personally experienced that, so I can't speak to that in a large degree, but I will say this. I can reach anywhere in the world, any people in the group in the world from here in Kansas City, and I'm in no danger of being in trouble with those countries that I've never been to. So you might find yourself being able to reach an audience that is geographically different than you, but is culturally or language-wise the same as you. And if you're able to do that, then you're able to reach that audience without fear for your own safety. And I think there's in many places in the world today, people are addicted to their phones and constantly on their phones. And so it's a huge opportunity to reach the world. You do have to be strategic about where you are and knowing your own security concerns. Yeah, someone say, you can do remote missions and share with them. I think in every situation, and this is something I wanted to say earlier, I haven't said, you really need to ask God, what are you asking me to do, God? And really let God into this. For a long time, I made videos on YouTube and I wouldn't give God permission to tell me to stop because I was afraid that he would tell me to stop and then I wouldn't get to create anymore. And I love doing it. And I think for me, it's recognizing that we have a good God who's leading us and saying, if God wants me to stop, then that's good, I should do it. And instead saying, God, you made me passionate for this. How am I meant to express that passion? And God is on our side and will lead us, and maybe the timing is different. So always bring these questions to God and say, God, what are you asking me to speak on? Sometimes you have to consider your audience and try and find a message that's valuable to some people. But the prophets in the Bible shared a lot of messages that were not popular with people. And so I think sometimes God will ask us to say things that we don't say them because people want to hear them. We say them because God is asking us to speak them. And whether we find an audience or not, we can share in obedience to God. I think that's something to consider. I think that there are ways to do both, and I don't think that they're mutually exclusive.
Hi,
Great.
Phil.
Go ahead.
Can I ask a question also? I have some questions about like some legal issues. For example, first of all, you're gonna shoot on the street, so like the people on the street will show up in your videos. How about, have you ever met those kind of issues, like people will sue you or claim that you should not like show their faces on the into the public, something like that?
Yeah, so that concern is going to be very much based on what country you're in. And I'm by no means going to give you any legal advice here. I think there's definitely concerns that you need to take into consideration. With a smaller channel, I think you have less scrutiny on yourself, but that's not a reason to do illegal things. But I would say, from my understanding, that when people are in public and you're able to shoot them in a way that's where they're not taking up the majority of the frame and you're not utilizing their face to do a message that's defaming to them or making a point out of them that they didn't give permission to make, that's the real issue and where people would actually sue you or be concerned. If they appear in the background of your video as a small face, my understanding is that is legally okay. If you were to, it kind of depends on what you're doing. If you're filming a group of people and saying, look how terrible these people are, that's not good. But if you're filming your face and talking to the camera and someone appears in the background for a second, I don't think that that's a concern to them. there's a chance that maybe they will be concerned by that and they would ask you, take the video down or blur my face out. And YouTube has a tool to do that. But I haven't had that concern. I haven't had anyone ever ask me to take a video down. Not saying it will never happen, but I would say a lot of times those legal issues can sound really scary. Look into them a little bit and then move forward and recognize that most of the time when people have a concern, they're usually just ask you to take the video down, and that's not a big deal.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. And also another question about the music, the background music, because I know for some, you have to pay for that, or are there any like free resources you can use?
Yeah, I have found some free resources. YouTube has a library that you can use of music. To be honest, I actually pay $15 a month to get licensed music for my YouTube channel. I find that music is very important, and so that's an investment that I put into my channel. And that's the route that I've taken. I think you can find music elsewhere, but being able to find good music consistently is really difficult. There are a lot of songs you can use, even from popular artists, where they will just put an ad on your video and take away the money earning potential of that video. And so that's another way, if making money off YouTube isn't your goal.